your your salvager, does it really?
It's a damn tough life. We're homeward bound from the hunting ground, rolling down to old ruin. Once more we fly through the Stanton sky, through the black, the cold, and
Yeah, it's been at least 2 years for me since the last time I blew myself up.
There you go. You know what
Thank you.
So yeah, we're live. How's everybody doing?
Doing good, Captain. Doing good, Captain. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm gonna get this link sent over here. My cat will get out of my way.
I mean, you can leave the cat.
He is very persistent. I think he's staying.
There we go. So, everybody, I'm joined here by Captain Dirty and Jack Axton. How's everybody doing tonight?
Yo ho! Doing great, man. Glad to be here.
Me too. Jack, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Little warm. Been in the Arkansas sun today. Unfortunately, I am away from home, so I am sans camera yet again.
No worries.
Yeah, it's all right, Jack. It's all right, Jack. So, I'm going to also, before we really kick this off, I'm going to add captains and oops, that was a bad thing to do. I'm going to add chaos squads and Jack's YouTube links into chat. So if anybody wants to go follow them, which I encourage you to do so, go do that. Go do that. Show them some love and support.
Oh, thank you.
So I guess before we get going, we should, in case nobody knows who you guys are, I guess we should go around and introduce ourselves.
Hey,
You wanna go first, Captain?
sure. I'm Captain Dirty. I'm the leader of Chaos Squad. Been around for the last 3 years or so, actively stealing people's stuff.
Jack, how about you?
I got my start in 2014. The name's Jack Axton, and I'm the guy that Captain Dirty steals stuff from. But
Not
he's not
yet.
doing that. Not yet,
We
but it'll
haven't.
happen.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll catch up to you.
I mean, like, that's the thing. I gotta be lucky every time. You only gotta be lucky once, you know?
True.
But yeah, for those who don't know, I like to haul a couple of boxes around the verse, despite CIG's best efforts, and every now and then I make a profit.
I'm Scarred Citizen. I've been around for, about a year and a few months, and I dabble in a little bit of everything. I've never cargo ran, so I can't say I've done that, but I mine, and I'm particularly fond of getting boots on the ground and shooting people in the face. That's what I like to do. I'm a big fan of that. So we are all gathered here today because CIG decided to bring us together. Um, I'm pretty sure if I have my order of events correct, Captain had and the Chaos Squad had released a video about a week before the Jack incident happened. So to kind of catch up everybody on what's going on, Captain, what did you and Chaos Squad reach out to CIG with?
Yeah, so we had some questions about what is and is not legal in armistice zones. Kind of the rules revolving around pad ramming and yeah, what we can do in armistice. So like a common thing that comes up for us is people will when they realize that they're being pirated, they'll either stay inside the armistice zone or they'll fly back there and hang out there. Um, and you know, after a while, it becomes clear that they have no intention of leaving. Sometimes they just log out. Uh, and so what we often do is we'll take a ship and we'll bump the ramp until the ramp opens up, board the ship, take the ship out of AZ, and then loot it, essentially. Um, to me, this doesn't feel like a very exploitative tactic. There are things that can be done to avoid this, namely just getting in the seat and flying the ship. Um, and we've been doing this for about 3 years now. And I have not caught any flack at all from CIG for doing this specific thing. And I'm sure a lot of people have made reports against me. I can't know the specifics, but I have to assume that at some point somebody must have. Um, so my position on this is that this seems to be a legal thing. We were guessing though, and so we reached out to CIG and we asked them specifically, "Hey, we're using ships in Armistice to pop open doors," and they gave us like a non-answer to that. And so we asked another question, and what they said was, "You can pirate anywhere." They didn't specifically say you can use ships to ram open other ships, but that's how I interpret it, especially given my experiences with just not getting in any hot water for doing this. And so I put out a video, and apparently it got a little more attention than I thought it would. And it seems to have like kind of created some division within the community. But I think it's good that this is being talked about now. And I think that's where I'll leave that story for now. Yeah?
Yeah. Um, Jack,
Aye.
what what happened? What happened? What was it? Last Sunday, right? It was last Sunday, last Saturday.
Last Thursday, actually, is when
That's
the
what it was.
incident occurred.
So, could you give us a brief rundown of what actually happened, and then
Yeah,
the
of course.
consequence of that?
Story time. And I will try to be as unbiased and or objective as possible. Anyway, I came into SMO 18 in my Caterpillar, as one should not do. And after buying cargo and leaving, I was encountered by a pirate. We went back and forth for a little bit. Then he finally opened up. As we're fighting, a friend of his shows up, two colorless blues. And, against one blue, yeah, sure, whatever. Two, not so much. I'm near SMO 18, so I think, screw it. I've got a friend. I'm going to go back, try to get some repairs, wait for them, or at least, buy some time. However, as I'm coming back into Armistice, one of them decides that they're going to deny me the pad and lands on the pad in front of me. So I decide, screw it. If I can't take you in Armistice, I'll go through you. I decide to go through him on the pad with the Caterpillar. Since I do not have superior speed, at least I have a superior hit point pool. His friend starts coming into Armistice as well. I decide, well, if this worked once, it'll work twice. And then while he's in the air, not on a pad, mind you, but in the air in Armistice, I freight train the Caterpillar through him. And since there are no more hostiles in the area, I leave. They start whining in chat. I'm sorry, whining's that's a leading word. They start expressing discontent with my actions in chat, and I let it say there. Sunday, 2 in the morning on a Sunday, mind you, I get an email from CIG telling me that I have a 3-day suspension for pad ramming, and that's pretty much where that goes.
So let me clarify something. I was always under, well, I'm not clarifying anything really, but I was always under the impression that the only pads that were off limits for ramming were the Platinum Bay pads.
That's what I thought too. And this was also after seeing the video from Captain Dirty. Well, if piracy can occur in Armistice, why can't anti-piracy?
I mean, it would make sense. It really would. Did you get a chance to appeal your suspension or get a chance to talk with CIG about that? Or did they kind of
Funny
just close this book like they did on Dirty?
funny thing about that, I actually appealed immediately after I got the email. I responded to it. I did not get a response, and on the fourth day of a 3-day suspension, I was still suspended. I wrote in again on the fourth day, asking them to unsuspend me, and got no response. After a few hours of that, another friend of mine wrote in, got a response within 15 minutes from someone else. Obviously, they told them that they couldn't comment since it was an account issue, but that same person was the one to unsuspend me immediately at the same time. So CIG was just going to let me sit there suspended. They were not responding to any of my emails.
That okay. I mean, I guess you got a little bit further than Captain did when he got his hand slap, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, they actually still have not responded to me from my
Oh, they
original
haven't.
appeal. Yeah, no one has responded, and that was I sent that on Sunday, last Sunday.
Is
sorry, I was just gonna say my
go
experience
ahead.
was similar. I got a warning, right? Hey, don't do what you did. And I was like, what did I do? And they're like, the thing in the med bay. And I said, okay, what else can I do here? And they're like, end of story. That's it. You're done. And I also send a response, kind of separate ticket, like, hey, we've been thinking about this and working on this. Zero response from CIG. That was like 8 months ago now.
Have you ever been suspended before, Jack?
No, no, I have not. This is my first run in, so it was a little odd that the hammer came down so hard.
This is this is really weird. So I guess from an outsider's perspective, what's the difference between what you did and I guess what Dirty does by giving ships a little bit of nudge on the pads? What's the difference? Do either of you guys have an idea what the difference would be there?
Well, when Dirty does it, the ship survives. So maybe his was less mean than mine.
I mean, so there are some differences in the intent, right? Like my intention is to open the ship up so that we can grab it and take off with it. And I think the intention behind your tactics were to destroy the opposition, which I'm not calling into question at all. I would have done the same thing, I think, if I were in your shoes. Um, there's that, and that they were like both landing on the pad, and that's something that CIG has been they're sticky about it, right? Like there's pad ramming, and we know that's a no-no, but we don't know if that applies to only spawning pads or all the pads, or we don't know that. But pad ramming bad, okay. And if it's like if it's anything close to pad ramming, also bad. And I have to think that the main difference is with the intent. But I don't know. That's as far as I can read the tea leaves. I will
That's
say, sorry.
no,
So
go ahead.
we talked a little bit more with CIG after I made my recent video about the pad ramming. After there was so much debate, we said, okay, hey, let's ask another question, see if we get an answer to it. And what they said was, we said, can we use a ship to ram another ship inside Armistice? And their answer is, if there's nothing that the player can do to avoid the ram, you're a pad rammer. And so then the next day, literally the next day, I see that you got suspended. And I'm like, well, according to the logic that they just gave me, you shouldn't have gotten a ban there. According, like, those players both saw you, they were looking straight at you, they were in their seats, they were actively flying their ships.
Into my
They
flight path.
they could have avoided you 100% if they had wanted to, right? Or if they had the reaction speed. And let's be honest here, you flew a cat into them. It took like 5 seconds for the ram to happen, right?
Yeah,
They
you had
had
time to
time.
check your watch.
They had time to move, right? I mean, unless they're stuck in their Moby glass, that would be the only thing I could think.
No, there's a fatal flaw here in your logic, and you're asking CIG to be consistent on something.
Right.
So there's, forgive me. You guys have both been here longer than I have as far as dealing with CIG, Star Citizen as a whole and playing it longer than I have. Is there anywhere for you to actually go and get all the rules, or do you have to put together some crazy Frankenstein monster from a post over here on Spectrum, a post over here on Reddit, somebody that one of the guys said on Twitter? Is there anywhere to go and actually get like what you can and can't do in an armistice zone?
No. Just straight
Yeah,
up
like
no.
listen, you got to get Lovecraftian with it. Like you are delving into downright esoteric posts from like 2013 and
Mm.
then cross-referencing that with another post from 2017 and then looking up something that someone posted in yellow text that got delisted on a forum 3 years ago or something. Like there's no clear, concise way to find rules. And if you go through like, the TOS or EULA, usually it's going to be very vague, which, works for CIG's favor because that way it's not an exhaustive list that can be rules lawyered, but there's no concise list of rules. And even when someone sends something out in an email, you can't even talk about it on forums because you cannot discuss moderation on the forums, which makes it even harder to nail down a list of rules.
Yeah. So we've been continually trying to get through the weeds with CIG on this issue, and I've actually sent a couple more tickets besides what's already known. And what at first it was a post to Spectrum, like talking about this stuff and trying to get some answers and clarification, and they shut that down and they said take it to the proper channels. Okay, so we'll send a support ticket. The support ticket sits unanswered for 3 days. So it's like, okay, so then what? We go to Ask a Dev on Spectrum and wait for them to shut it back down there and tell us to take it to the proper channels where they're not going to respond to us? Like, what the
I know that
fuck?
Uh, the, it just seems weird that you have to sit here and do some sort of cultic ritual to get any sort of response from CIG, which I guess is another good question. I have only dealt with CIG support one time, and it was not enjoyable at all. And I'll get into that in a minute. But have you guys ever dealt with CIG support outside of, well, Captain, I know you have, but Jack, have you had to deal with CIG support outside of your suspension?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been everything from requesting like being able to buy another ship to account issues with emails not showing up to reporting players who are clearly violating TOS. Not like, a gray area like this, but stuff like that. And usually 9 times out of 10 that I have dealt with them, the responses have been very swift, very clear cut, concise. And outside of special events like Invictus or whatever, it's always been very, very quickly. Um I have noticed that it seems like their overall attitude towards me has become slightly colder over the last year for whatever reason. But aside from that, it's always been pretty top notch. Like I got to give them props. Like even when they tell me no, they tell me nicely and why. They've never really been less than agreeable with me.
What do you think? I mean, you don't have to answer this if it's a private thing or anything like that, but why do you think, CIG's turned such a cold shoulder to you?
I'm gonna take the long answer on that one, if
Okay.
that's okay. Um, so one, okay, I stream the game. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna say that I'm big or anything like that. Like I am a guppy in the eyes of CIG. But I've noticed that while they show a lot of support to people on Twitch, shout outs, things like that, they're very silent when it comes to anyone who does things primarily on YouTube. Um, that might not be the case. That might just, I don't know, not like my hair or whatever. But I've noticed there's a slight attention divide between the people they like on Twitch and anyone else. Um, like I've actually tried to reach out to CIG and be like, hey, can I get some of that love that you guys give to the Twitch folks? Like, ships to give away and whatnot. And they have left me on red. Like they've ignored me. And maybe it's also because maybe I've been critical of CIG in the past. Failure to keep up with certain things as far as like patches and things like that, or you know how they've left the trade economy to be stale for the last 3 plus years while focusing on other things. But that's my idea. Maybe I've been too critical for their liking. I wanted to reduce it to just if they don't like me or whatever. But that's really the only thing I can come up with because aside from what happened last Thursday, it's not like I've really ran into anyone or been a a, a bad person that I know of. Maybe I have been. Maybe I've been a jerk, but no one's just told me yet. But as far as I can tell, I don't think I've done anything too criminal.
Um, Captain, do you get a lot of this kind of treatment from the CIG? What do you call it? Helpline, hotline, whatever you want to call it.
So I've had mixed experiences with it. When I first got started, I sent in some tickets about like, ships that had gone missing that I had purchased, and sometimes they would make an effort to restore that. I'm saying purchase like within, actual, what was it? It was a cat. I had a cat, and I think I had bought some with in-game and whatever. There was no wipe or anything, but they just like disappeared for some reason. And like, I was like, hey, everybody else has still got their stuff. What's going on? And that didn't go well. But like my main kind of concerns with them have been based around because my gameplay all revolves around PvP. It's all about trying to take people's stuff, and I understand that the game is developing and the systems are developing, and the ways that we do this sometimes may go over some kind of like gray area. And specifically I'm talking about the armistice zones and what we can and can't do in an armistice zone, and the med bay stuff as well. And I've gotten just a lot of like kick the can down the road kind of answers in a lot of the cases. I interacted with them when the PvP ban warning wave happened like 2.5 years ago. And I reached out to them then, and I asked some questions then. And at that time, I felt that the response was pretty good. They said, basically, if you don't hear from us, keep doing what you're doing, you're good. They didn't go as far as to like really specifically answer any of my questions because then they would be nailed down to something, right? So they just don't do that. So it's been a little bit of a mixed bag, some decent responses, a lot of non-answers, and for me it has been pretty frustrating because I have set myself up as somebody who represents part of the pirate community in Star Citizen, and people ask me and they join my org and they want to know what they can and can't do, and they look to me to be able to give them some kind of an answer. And I'm like, well, look, definitely don't fly your ship into somebody's fucking hangar at Grim Hex and ram them. That's definitely a no-go, right? But beyond that, it's very difficult for me to give them any solid answer, and all I can really say is, well, listen, we've been doing this for a long time and nobody's gotten any flack for it yet. So I guess until we do, we're going to keep doing it. And we rely on knowing that it does usually take some really egregious bad behavior for CIG to just immediately outright ban someone, or even suspend, really. And I've probably stepped up to and crossed the line enough times where maybe they're like, oh yeah, we'll give him a day ban or whatever. Like I for example, this wasn't what I thought would be a pad ram, but somebody was trying to fly their ship into a hangar, and I flew my ship in front of them, in front of their hangar, and blocked it. And I got a warning for that, and I was confused about that. Like that didn't seem like pad ramming to me, but like when they say like don't do that, I'm like, all right, fine. At least I know that that's one thing that I need to stay away from. But if they don't ever give us that feedback, then we just have no way to know. We're just kind of guessing. And it doesn't really feel great. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at with CIG's customer support.
Do you mind if I add to that right quick?
Sure.
I also want to say, like, support wise too. Like, let's say I am in the wrong. I don't think I am, but again, biases. You know, if I am, oh god, I don't want to call myself like the I word influencer or whatever. You know, let's say people are paying attention. Maybe they got to make an example out of it too. Like if you've got this behavior that you don't want, you know, being streamed that people are watching or think is okay to do. Like dropping the ban hammer is a good way to send a message to other people. It's like don't do that. Here's an example of what not do to do. Now, I feel like you could communicate that better, but that could also be another reason as to why.
Yeah. So thinking about the medbay incident, we have suppressed people in medbays multiple times over 3 years, and never once did we hear a word from CIG about it. Although I did specifically ask them, "Hey, is this off the rules?" No answer, of course. Um, and until it hit the front page of Reddit in front of all those eyes, that was when they chose to respond to it and actually do something about it. So it really seems from where I'm sitting and from what you're saying here that CIG doesn't really care to police the game that much until what you're showing is something that they don't want public and it's hitting a lot of eyes. And that's when they move
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. That's what I think too. I'm wondering, do you think, I mean, this is kind of I doubt you have the answer to this, Jack, but I'm assuming that the pirates that you rammed are the ones that reported you. Do you think they included parts of your stream or linked them your stream so they saw what you did? Because if in my opinion, if they saw what you did, I don't think that was a wrong move. As Captain said, I would have done the exact same thing. If somebody's chasing me down and I've made it into an AZ zone and now they're taking the pad from me so I can't repair and they're leaving me no option. I'm gonna ram them. That's just
Yeah,
that's what I would
like
do.
I mean, if you shoot at me, all bets are off. Like I'm going to do anything I can to secure my cargo. Like I'm not like I love trading. I'm not going to be a care bear about it. Like I will either lose or go through you. But anyway, as far as like the report goes, like as soon as they took the hit, they started screaming about reporting me in general chat. Now, I don't think it was targeted or anything like that. I don't think it was because like I'm nobody. You know, I just go and haul. As far as linking the footage, I have no idea. I linked the footage in my appeal. Um, Again, I don't know if that's done anything since they have yet to respond to me. But yeah, like I think they just got very upset that they attempted something and it didn't go in their favor. And I mean, I would have been in the same wheelhouse had I been on their end. But yeah, no, like I don't think it was like targeted or anything like that. I think they were just upset.
Here, time out for 1 second. I wanna address something real quick. Sketch therapy in my chat. We are not a bunch of Karens trying to get people banned from the game. We're not trying to get people suspended from the game. This conversation is about us trying to discuss finding out what the rules are to this game and the TOS to this game so that when people act on what the rules have been set down as, they do said thing and then CIG bans them or suspends them for doing the exact thing that they said was okay to begin with. We're not sitting here trying to rally masses to go Karen out CIG like you keep saying we are. We're not doing that. We're having a discussion here to figure out what is actually going on with CIG and how we can actually play the game in accordance with the way they want us to play the game. So, I mean, if that's what you think that we're doing, then I guess keep typing because nobody's going to respond to you anymore. We're not carrying, carrying out to CIG to get people banned. We're not trying to get people banned. We want to know what we can and cannot do. Why is it okay when one player rams somebody in this zone, but if they ram somebody over here in this zone, it's become against TOS.
And I do want to say though, like I'm not like upset with the two that did it, because that's what reporting is for. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I think I was wronged, I'm going to report it. Like, if anything, I'm more upset with CIG, and I have actively asked people not to go after, the people. I don't want to bring anything against them for playing the game. If you feel like you are slighted, you should bring it to the appropriate authorities and let someone who has investigative capability make the decision on that or not. Like, you know what? That's not part of this either. And yes, flaw. I was streaming at the time.
Yeah, it's as somebody brought up, we're just looking for consistency across the board, so that way, we don't have to play with looking over our shoulders at all time. Did we just do something that's wrong? I mean, I would expect if somebody would have saw what we were doing out in the desert on Hurston last night, we probably would have gotten reported for a bunch of people throwing grenades and dodgeballs at each other and bodies laying all over the place. If that was taken out of context, they would have had no idea what the heck was going on. There's a bunch of dead guys laying out in the desert and 20 guys running around throwing grenades at each other. You better look at this. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like you do some of the weirdest things and CIG jumps in and goes, "Hey, here's your suspension, or here's your warning. Don't do that again." It's odd. It's very odd. Um, Sorry, I went way off track. So CIG doesn't have a place that we can look at this stuff. They are inconsistent with how they deal with one party to another party. Is there a way that you think the community as a whole, and as Sketch Therapy would say, carrying out CIG so things like this doesn't happen anymore, where we get told one thing and then when somebody goes and does that one thing, we are looking down the barrel of a suspension?
I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath, but it would be great to get some clarification on what is and isn't allowed. Um, I don't expect that to happen in the alpha phase as they're developing new systems and mechanics. So, like, yeah, I'm not holding my breath on it. Um, Short of changing those problematic systems to something that works within the game that they sold us and we bought, I don't know what to really say except yeah, soon TM maybe will have not broken mechanics and or clear rules, but it's not today. It's not going to be tomorrow.
You got anything you want to add to that one, Jack? I mean, Captain hit that one pretty good.
I mean, I could waffle on a little bit. Like, the thing that concerns me, like, I know that you can report in like the QR code of like the session you're in, so they can go look at data. But I want to know, like, what does that data show? Is it just yes, ship collision in Armistice? Is it ship occupied XYZ while this ship occupied XYZ? That is an Armistice, therefore, ban. Like, do they have the actual context of it, or do they just have raw data that points to something else? Because I feel like looking at data versus looking at what was actually happening and the people involved would be totally different things. And I'm wondering if they actually have the tools to be able to investigate that properly from their side alone, and if they'll be able to develop anything better on down the road.
I hope they do, because the rules seems to be it we every game has rules, and we should have the ability to look at those rules, without having to jump through a bunch of hoops and
Yeah,
figure out was I do what I just did, is that right? Is that okay? Is that not right? So
exactly. And you also have to look at, like, rules as written versus rules as intended as well. Like, there's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and I feel like that needs to apply at the same time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I've never played a game where the rules seem to change from day to day. It was always kind of like, if you do this, you can get yourself in trouble. I don't know. It's really It's a really odd thing for me, especially in a game where so many moving parts are going on, you know. Like you said, there's context to everything that goes on in this game. Um, so I guess what is your guys' thought on the current state of the game right now? Bans and suspensions aside.
It's in an okay place, but it could be a lot better. It could also be a lot worse, and so I'm glad that it's not worse, but I'm sad that it's not better.
That's a lot nicer way than I would have said it.
Let's hear it, Jack. Let's hear it.
I just okay, we're rapidly catching up to Duke Nukem Forever in terms of development time. And I was around for Answer the Call 2016, um, which then became 18, then 20, then whenever.
Hmm.
I was also around for Salvage Will Come in 3.2. And I feel like there's a lot of things that take a lot of time that I've seen come and go. Like, I joined this when I was 24 years old. I'm 33 now. Time has gone by. I've had so many life events, and I'm like, wow, Star Citizen is well, we finally got salvaging. And like the last few updates, like 317 took forever. And I know that was a technology thing. It took them a while to get around that one. And I think most of my complaints can be traced back to the amount of time focused on Squadron 42, which is personally a non-issue for me. I don't care about Squadron 42 at all. I'm here for the multiplayer.
Hmm.
And with everything being focused on Squadron 42, watching the persistent universe take a back seat has been incredibly frustrating. And yeah, like that glacial pace. Like there are so many good things about Star Citizen trapped in that ice, waiting for that glacier to melt. And it's just taking that time. Like I want to see those things, I want to touch those things, I want to realize those things, but I can't. I want to, but can't. I mean, we had to wait how many years before pirates could actually take a box off a ship? How long did that take?
When did 3.0 happen? I checked in for a little while. That was like 2017, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 2017.
Yeah, I stole a couple ships, and that was cool. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's about the end of piracy gameplay. So I'll come back later. And what is that? 6 years? 6 years till I could.
The
Well, I mean, unless you count Hadanite, and then like
6 years. The
4 years.
development time for Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Somebody pointed it out to me not too long ago that since CIG started developing, Unreal has developed 2 new engines.
Yeah,
At the
like I'm
rate they're
not
going, they're going to need to transfer to yet another engine before they release, unless they get their shit together soon.
Oh god, don't say that. Like I got kidney disease, man. I don't know if I'm going to be around long enough for that.
So let's since we touched on the state of the game, I guess we should touch on this. Jack, what is the current state of cargo running in the game?
Well, it still favors large haulers. I will say that they threw us a bone with the whole shakeup. Now, the trade shakeup only happened because mining got an update. Like it was not we'll just help the traders out. It was, yeah, these commodities are identical. If we're gonna buff the mining commodities, then trade gets an update. If you're in a small hauler, pretty much your only recourse if you want legal trade is to run gold, which means you're gonna get blown up. Um, you can actually be viable with a large hauler, and I'm talking 300 SCU plus running barrel. You have a total of two options for that one. So there's more money making opportunity at the high end, but it's still rather flat. Um, there's also a weird wall between your mid tier commodities like titanium, acetine, and whatnot, and the high end. Like you go from making maybe 100K to higher, but your investment amount has to jump from like 200,000 to 1.6 million. and there's no real step between that. And starter haulers, like I'm sorry, like the Core, um, shoot, even the Avenger Titan, anything below like a freelancer size is just you might as well haul drugs. There's no real legal commodity you can run and make more money than some of your most basic missions. So while it's gotten better for the large traders and people in medium ships like a Taurus, it's still not that great, and you're not going to be able to enter it as an entry level ship. You're going to have to do some investments before you can even touch it. And even then, there's no real recourse for losing your cargo to things outside player agency. Like, if a pirate comes and gets you, it's whatever. It's your fault. But crash the desktops, things like that, there's no recourse there. It's still high risk, low reward.
So, so Captain Dirty, how does the current state of cargo relate to piracy and taking that stuff?
Yeah, whenever there's like a big rush that happens in the cargo community, there's like a new hot thing, then we'll see an uptick in the amount of players that go to that place. And so we'll hang out there for a while. Um, and after a few weeks though, the kind of the craze is over and there will still be people going there. It's just not as many. Um, so as far as like the way that trade has developed, how does that affect piracy? I'd say that generally speaking, there's usually one hot thing, and that's where most of the traders go, especially the big targets, the juicy ones that we want to hit. That's where they're going, and so that's where the pirates will tend to go. Now it's been fantastic that they've gotten physicalized cargo into the game and we can move it off of one grid and onto another and then sell it. That is huge for piracy. That's big stuff, right? We kind of already mentioned it. But since that has happened, piracy has evolved from mostly relying on extortion-based tactics to, well, now we can run an extortion, or we can just shoot first and collect the loot later. So that's been really big for us on the pirate side of things.
So when cargo's a booming, piracy's a booming, huh?
Yeah, when there's a new hot thing, yeah, people go and check it out. I mean, and like, there's no big secret about it. Most of the pirates will follow folks like Jack. I mean, I've checked out Jack's streams to see what he's been doing, to see where I know you hesitate to call yourself an influencer, but let's be real. When people see you making those runs, that's where they end up going, and a lot of the times, anyways. And so that's where we go to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, okay, a good economy benefits everybody. Like that is a stupid sentence, and yet it seems to not be applied in Star Citizen. If I can rant right quick, if you guys are
Oh, go ahead.
Go for
okay.
it.
So like
Go.
I've noticed this thing with CIG. They love to sell the sizzle. Every time a patch comes out, the trailer for it is always tons of combat, or they'll show off, some sort of cinematic piracy or whatever. Like it's a nice sizzle. But to have the beef that sizzle comes off of, like the actual act of pirating people and whatnot, you need to have the cows to make the beef, which is the traders, the economy that traders can exploit. And I know I'm calling myself a cow, moo, but like stick with me here. To have all that, to sell that sizzle, that people can come in and enjoy the beef of piracy, you gotta feed the freaking cows. If you don't have any cows, you don't have any beef. You don't have any sizzle, you got to feed the cows. You gotta have a decent economy that someone can come in and go, well, I've only got 6 SCU, but I can at least get a start. If I've got a freelancer, what's a basic starter trade ship essentially, I can still make money in a way that is viable than some of the most basic missions in the game. If you don't have a good economy, there's not enough traders, and if there's not enough traders, and pirates have to sit there for hours. Like what you don't see with a lot of piracy is the wait, the research, the sitting there waiting for a bite. And when there's not a lot of bites, there's not a lot of piracy. A lot of people jump in thinking it's going to be all action, and it turns out it's research. It's sitting there, the equivalent of a squad car stakeout, for hours waiting for a snip. And if you have more pirates, then you've got a lot more need for traders. Otherwise, you're just going to be bored out of your mind.
The ratios have definitely turned recently. It used to be I would almost never see other pirate crews while we were out hunting. Nowadays, it happens. It's not a lot still, but yeah, every once in a while we'll be flying over SMO 18 and be like, hey, look, there's a Cutlass Blue over there. Nah, he's not one of ours. Blow that shit up. You know?
Yeah.
And that's great, and I like to see that. I think it's good that there are more pirates in the game now. But there has been, I think, a little bit of pushback from the cargo hauling community because now there are all these pirates in the game. CIG has encouraged them to come back. Huge waves of players came when the cargo refactor happened. And you're right, they haven't given anything to the traders yet. There's a little bit of rumbling the last week or two about economy stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not holding my breath for that either. If that happens, awesome, but I'm not gonna like, oh, next patch, guys, let's get hyped. Everything's gonna, no.
Oh god, yeah,
Right.
like
No.
Tony Z was like, "Oh, 2019 CitizenCon. Here's Quantum, and we're going to introduce it in a version next year." 4 years later, "Hey guys, we're putting together an economy team." What?
Yeah,
You
right,
haven't had
right.
one for the last 4 years?
Yeah, I was hyped when they talked about it 3 years ago. I was like, oh shit, that's gonna be really cool, guys. Everything's gonna change. Well, we're 3 years later and nothing has changed. And so, yeah, like, nope. The hype train ended like 2 years ago, man.
So, uh, since Jack used the feed the cows thing, and that kind of seems to feed into piracy, which then it seems to be a big circular thing as the circle of life is. You know, the traders get fed, the pirates get fed, then the traders hire escorts, and it just keeps on going in a nice loop, and lots of people make money, and there's lots
Do
of
they
fighting, and
though?
everybody's happy. We'll get into that. We'll get into that because I know where that's going. So, Jack, you are like you say you're a little fish, but I think you're a big fish in the SC community. You do all the trading all the time. W- Give me your and not the Tony Z Quanta thing. Give me your perfect economy.
A perfect economy is where nothing is static. I want to be able to have a reason to not just trade barrel or gold. I want a reason to go, oh hey, this place is having a rush on this. I can sell there. Go, nah, this is flooded. I want an economy where I have multiple options instead of a flat linear tiered system. I want to be able to see something where I can take a risk and make a ton of money, or go through what's going good today and maybe have to do some research first and take advantage of something. I want to see an economy where I have a reason to go anywhere and everywhere instead of just going, well, I've got $1 million. Let's go run barrel every day. And I also want to see a reason to be able to run small ships, like quality over quantity. Elite Dangerous, while not perfect, has a pretty good version of this where they have the whole, oh, you can only land medium ships here instead of a big ship. But guess what? We've got a much better, profit return on buying stuff here for medium ships. So like while like a medium ship might not be able to make as much as a large ship running bulk, it can make something comparative. Like you actually have a reason to not just go, well, I'll buy the biggest trader. Like you could actually run something medium. I want to see something that fluctuates constantly. And all you have to do is just randomize those numbers every now and then. Change it every hour. It's like, guess what? Titanium's super cheap. It's not going to be as good as gold, but it's guaranteed and it's there. Versus, wow, I can wait 10 minutes and get another 175 SCU of gold as long as I don't get shot. Like, I want to see a fluctuating risk versus reward. And if I show up and suddenly that titanium is selling for crap, then at least I could sit on it and wait for it to come around again or cut my losses and go back out. I also would like to be able to just sell stuff instead of it going, oh no, we're full up. We don't want that anymore.
Yeah, that is kind of odd, isn't it? That like they don't even cut the price. They just no, you can't sell it here.
Yeah, well, they do both. They cut the price and go, "Nah, man, we got too many hula hoops. We don't want that. Get out of here."
So, hmm. So let's say this. All right, let's. I guess Captain kind of brought it up. What is the mentality of your average cargo hauler? Why not hire escorts? That gets brought up a lot. Just hire escorts, and then I see a lot of pushback on that. What's the mentality behind that?
So there's okay. So I'm gonna give you the real versus perceived here. Um, the perceived mentality on that is there's really no use, and kind of that's kind of true. But a lot of it right now is sometimes you can't afford to, and I know that sounds silly. Like with barrel, with a C2 with barrel, running to Orson, you can make 300K a run, which is great, super great, until you get to Orison and you store your ship, and instead of having it stored so you can sell, it explodes, and now you're out like 2 million. Um, honestly, really, there's very little need for escort. Like, even though there's been an uptick in piracy, unless you're running gold, you got to be real, real unlucky to come across a pirate. 90% of the time, you're not going to meet a pirate. And that's the thing. I want to. Like I want to be able to go, gee golly, maybe I should go back on that. Maybe I should get an escort. But most of the time you're not going to meet a pirate. Um, unless you're just again Jumptown or SMO 18. And if you're going to SMO 18, you need to be loaded for bear anyway. But I go without an escort on purpose just to see what happens. Because most of the time they're just not there. Like the expenditure is not worth it right now. If you lose one load every 30 loads, like it's gonna suck, but you're still profiting because a lot of people see an escort and go, "Oh, that's just a dink on my profit." Like there's no real need for it right now. It's fun to run with escorts, but also at the same time, just getting people together is a hassle.
Mhm.
Oh
Like
yeah.
every time it's like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna play with friends. Oh, I'm at Microtech. Oh, I loaded at Area 18." And then like you're trying to get together, you finally get together, 30K, you load up again, it takes forever, and then 2 hours later, you still haven't got to do anything. So really just getting an escort is also another waste of time just waiting for your actual escort to get there. So a lot of people just go, screw it. I'm gonna run by myself. Like if it was less of a hassle, then yeah, you'd see a lot more of it. Or if you could make more profit to afford the expenditure. Because up until the whole barrel gold shakeup, most of the time all you could make was like 100K every 20 30 minutes. You can make that in 10 minutes running bounties. So like you could barely afford the risk versus reward, and then paying an escort just meant that while you made money you could make more doing literally anything else.
And you do 29 runs and don't see a pirate, and you're like, what did I pay this dude for, right? And then you're like, all right, bye. And then it's
Yeah,
the 30th
exactly.
run, and then you see the pirate, and you're like, well, fuck, now I needed it. So how do you know? Like, there isn't it isn't so condensed that you like even going to SMO 18, like you probably like you have much higher chances of seeing a pirate crew there, but it's not guaranteed. You might be able to do it 4 or 5 times before you see any trouble.
Yeah. Like honestly, okay, so back in the 3.2 to 3.5 days, I hired more security than I ever have now. And piracy wasn't really a thing then. It was just people sneaking onto your ship. Like we had interior security, we had escorts, we had scouts, and we were making at best maybe 50K off a 1.4 million run. But I needed more security then than I do now. Now it's like, oh, there's a guy. I'm leaving now.
What was the difference between then and now?
Ships didn't lock, so as soon as you spawned it at Port Alisar, people could run into it. I actually used to hire
Yes.
this guy who would. He literally just stayed in the ship all day. That's all he did. He never left the ship. But as soon as someone stepped on who wasn't us, he restructured them, and he was damn good at his job too. And I almost kind of wish we would take that back. Like, people just come into Armistice and then sneak onto your ship. Like, this guy was great for that. Guess what? I don't got to worry about that now. Or like, okay, if I can, like, turret gunners, I would run with just turret gunners. But guess what? Right now, you cannot buy cargo if other people are on your ship. Not on the
Yeah.
cargo grid, just in the ship. So it's like, all right, everybody out of the van, everybody back into the van. All right, we're back at Lorville, out of the van. Like, okay, sometimes I run like multi-ship convoys. I own more ships than I should. So it's like, hey, if we run like two C2s and two Caterpillars, like we're making a million a run. The problem is at every single stage, everyone has to get out of the ships and then back in. And it is a hassle. It is needless logistics, busy work. So sometimes it's just less of a headache to go, screw it, I'm going to run solo. I could maybe make more profit, but it's a headache getting all this going.
Before I ask Captain Dirty a question, this is something I've always wanted to see. Would it be feasible, or would it be something that the cargo haulers would want? Is being able to, once you've put down on a pad that offers tradable goods, to just be able to pull up your Mobi-Glass and buy it straight from your Mobi-Glass?
Is that a Jack question? Or
Yeah, no, yeah, it was for Jack. It was for Jack. Is that something that you guys want, like to be able to just buy it straight off your Mobi-Glass so you don't have to leave the ship?
I mean, it would be great. Like, I don't mind going inside just to talk to an NPC because, that's fun and I like to be sociable. Um, I think the big issue there is the whole, you know, that basically turns into Elite Dangerous.
Okay.
And, like, it keeps people from sneaking onto the ship. But eventually, if you start putting things in like that, it just becomes A to B simulator. And, like, I don't mind getting out of my
Okay.
ship and
I see what
talking
you're
to a
saying.
guy. Yeah. It's just,
I
I don't
see
want
what
to
you're
have to
saying.
run, like, I don't have to take a space bus to the city 13 kilometers from where my ship is and go, hey, man, you want to buy some cargo? Um, like, I want to step off a ship. I want to talk to a guy or at least go to a kiosk. That's me, though. People might not agree with me about that. Um, but I feel like at the same time, doing that robs a lot of piracy potential because while no one likes someone sneaking onto their ship, I feel like Armistice should be gone because you should have the chance to, but you should also have the chance to get shot if you get caught.
yeah,
Okay.
full agree. I also think Armistice should go. I think there should be stationary defenses up nearby, but I think fully like it. So if there are AAA turrets or AA turrets or whatever the fuck, and you can't, fly your ship in and open up the cargo bay with your guns and start looting it there or stealing it there, then maybe you need a bigger crew who can handle the defenses, or maybe you change your tactics and you land your ship a couple kilometers away and you take your dragonfly over there and then you sneak on board somebody's ship and you do it that way, right? Like what they have done constrains the just what a player can do when they're in this situation where it is traitor at the Armistice Zone and pirate finds the traitor and wants to take their stuff, right? You either have to wait for them to leave, hope they leave. If they don't leave, then you have to start to get creative. And like once again, we don't know where those lines are. If one day we're just going to get banned for trying to fucking play the game. So yes, I would love it if Jack could just, oh shit, there's somebody on my ship. Let me pull out my gun and start shooting, right? Because that's the gameplay that I'm after. That's the gameplay that all the people in my org are after. That's what we're all here for. Nobody wants to fucking like try and ascertain what they can and can't do in the Armistice Zone and like cheese their way through the ramp and then race to the pilot's seat and go, ha ha, you can't do shit now, can you? And then have your friends get on board the ship. And so once you do get outside of Armistice Zone, then you kill the traitor. It's just so convoluted and stupid the way that you are forced to do piracy with this system in the game. And I don't think we need to go back to doors can't be locked, although that was fun for a little while. Um, Definitely, I think Armistice zones do more harm than good, and I don't really think there's a good justification to keep them in the game, especially when the mechanics are already there to defend those stations.
Yeah, and like, okay, they removed hard armistice at stations with
Right.
the idea that they will do it at armistice eventually. Now, I think we can all agree that the defenses they put at those stations to make up for the hard armistice are a joke.
They're
Every now and
laughable.
then,
They're
yeah,
lacking, yes.
they might fire a missile at you. Maybe if one of them happens to be looking your way. But if CIG is willing to implement non-armistice at these stations with the paltry defenses they have now, why not just go ahead and do it at outposts? Put in the 4 same turrets you get at a bunker if you absolutely have to. Just go ahead and do it. Delete the armistice. Players will adjust. It's gonna be rough, but just go ahead and let it happen, and we'll make up for it. Like, things will change, for the better or the worse, but at least they will change and we'll be used to it. We'll be ready.
We'll be playing a game, at least, at that point, you know? I mean, I think of other games, and like we kind of mentioned earlier, like other games have rules, and I thought like, okay, well, what are some examples? And I can think of like, all right, well, I play Hell Let Loose, right? And when I log into a server in Hell Let Loose, sometimes there's a list of rules, and it says, don't do this, don't do this, got to do that. If you don't do that, you get kicked. That's just it, right? If you got questions, talk to an admin. Never had any problems in any Hell Let Loose server I have ever played in, right? Because the rules are clear, and I know what's good and what's not good. And then I thought, like, all right, well, what about like CS:GO? Are there like, can I just be playing the game and a mod comes out of fucking nowhere and like, hey, you can't, don't do that. I know it's possible, but don't do it. And the only thing I could think of were like a couple like glitches through like ceilings or walls that were used at the fucking tournament level, at the highest levels of play. And I was like, okay, that's basically the only example other than like using wall hacks, which is clearly stated and obviously not allowed, right? So, yes, we need to be done with the AZs. It's way past time for that. I'll step off my soapbox now.
See, here's the problem with that. You're playing a game where CIG gives you wall hacks instead of saying not
Right.
to use them.
Right. Yeah, but only this select group of players can have wall hacks, and only because a different group of players complained so loudly about another group of players that they have to find some weird in-game workaround. Which I mean, okay, great. I'm glad that you have an in-game solution to this in-game problem. Uh, but it's and whatever. It's an alpha, and you gave the bounty hunters fucking god markers. Fine. Fine, right? It's advanced a little bit now, so that if you're not all up in your Moby glass, it's a little bit harder. They'll get like your last kind of known location, and I think at this point the system is better. But I haven't truthfully done any bounty hunting in like 3 years, so I'm not sure what level the God marker exists at this point.
The God marker thing is, well, as you said, it's better, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I can for funds kill a bounty on the ground because I went chasing after, like, I took his bounty, I saw where he was, flew over there, and I'm watching him run from his ship to a bunker, and I don't even have to get out of my ship. I can just drop a bomb on him because I know exactly where he is. It's just not fun. It's not fun. I
Yeah,
don't find that in.
like if the UEE knows where this guy is down to the meter, why are they paying someone? Just go grab him yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I had asked um I asked Jack about, perfect economy and things like that. Do you, Captain, think that this is the golden age of piracy thus far in Star Citizen?
It's as good as it's ever been. as far as I've seen. I took a big break, after like 3.0 and came back really about 3 years ago. And so since I've been back, yeah, it's leaps and bounds better than where it's ever been from what I've seen. There was a time when you could steal a ship and then take that ship over to Grim Hex and sell cargo from it, and I'm sad to have missed that point in the development phase because that I think really is kind of like the end goal for piracy from in my mind. Like I don't see why we're wrecking a perfectly good ship. We could go sell that too. We've got it, right? So I still don't think we're all the way there. And I think that once we get to a point where the trade systems and the economy is developed to a point like what Jack was saying, um, that's going to be a huge increase in the just like how interesting and dynamic the pirate gameplay can be because instead of sitting and camping over on microtech now, we'll have to be looking at what's happening within the economy and adjusting where we move and what we look for based on that information. And it's going to, I think if it's working properly, it will spread the pirates out. So you'll be less likely to see them perhaps at the highest risk areas because they won't have to operate there, but more likely to see them at some of the medium to lower risk areas because they may spread out, right? To, oh, this thing's hot. All right, let's go after that. Or, oh, this thing is like okay, but it's close, so it's convenient. So let's just do that. I think that will make things much more interesting. Having different systems where this certain type of good needs to come from like let's just use farming as an easy example. The raw produce is produced here in this system. It's shipped over to another system where it's turned into something else, and then it's shipped somewhere else to people to where people will consume it, right? And if we can, as pirates, observe that happening, we can, number one, choose which point in the process we want to disrupt. Do we want the raw materials, or do we want the finished product, right? What's worth more? Is one more useful to us, perhaps? It will create much more interesting gameplay. And if we're getting to the point where we're crafting and doing that sort of thing, we may find ourselves like, oh yeah, it's hard for us to get this certain item because we're criminal outlaws, right? So we have to figure out a way to source those materials ourselves and craft them ourselves. And at that point, that's going to add an even bigger aspect to what we're thinking about when we're deciding where we go hunting and who we're looking for.
So you're looking for more of a active/reactive way of doing this instead of just, well, here's microtech. Let's just wait for 2 hours.
Yeah, and they kind of did that recently with the mining, right? There's the thing that you gather and you take it over here to the refinery and then you ship it somewhere else. And when that happened, it was great because we're like, oh, great. So we know, uh, most of the people will be refining at this point and they're going to go sell at the closest point, which is right over there. So we're going to be right between those points. We're going to catch them and we're going to do our piracy thing, right? That sort of thing on a bigger scale will be great because it just gives us more options and more like that's almost always a better thing. I can't think of very many situations where having more options is not good. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
So Jack,
What you
do
got?
do we pay pirates? Or do we fight pirates?
Both. Both. I enjoy both. So here's the thing. It's run if you can, assess your options. But like if I go down somewhere and I've got 10 people looking at me, um, as a trader, you want to make the most money. So if I lose the ship, I've made zero money. In fact, I've lost lots of money. However, if I can pay the pirate, then I lose less money. Like I'm still losing money, but not nearly as much. You want to try to soak the cost. Now, I understand there's a lot of people that go never pay your pirate, and I get that. But at the same time, let's say for example, I run into a pirate that I've interacted with before. They've held me up. I went ahead and paid them. If we have this rapport, and this is going to sound silly, but sometimes you have to be able to trust your mugger. If you don't have a trustworthy relationship in a criminal type gameplay, then it's going to be a lot harder. Like if they know that I'm going to pay them and I know that they will not shoot me if I pay them, then overall it's going to be easier for me. It's more trustworthy and I don't mind that negotiation either. It's fun. And if they're raising the red flag instead of the black flag, then well, running is always fun too, or fighting back. I've taken out a few countless blues in my time with controversial tactics.
Um, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but you, Captain, and your crew, you would prefer if they fought instead of, run or fight instead of just doing some of the other tactics we hear about, like Alt F4 and running to their bed and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, there are plenty of ways to cheese your way out of a pirate situation. You can Alt F4, you can sit in the AZ zone for an hour and a half. Um, a lot of something that we just saw recently was somebody took their C2 and lawn darted it straight into whatever microtech, hoping, I suppose, that us pirates were following too closely and not paying attention to our altimeter and followed them into the ground. And, that didn't happen because we were paying attention. So, yes, I mean, to answer your question, I would much rather either have that player interaction where we have that conversation and that negotiation, um, and it can be in good faith, it can be in bad faith, whatever. I'm here for the gameplay, so whatever. If you want to try and like trick me and waste my time while your buddies show up, do it. Please do it. I'm not going to complain, right? Because I'm going to be sitting there from the get go, like judging every action you take and every way you respond, thinking to myself, like, this guy bullshitting me or not? Are we on for real? Or, what's going on? That's fun. That's interesting gameplay. Same way with the fight. If we want to go the fight route, sure, great. It's not great odds for a solo trader versus a gang of pirates, but if you want to go that way, we'll go that way, gladly. It's even better if you stick around until after we soft death your ship for the gunfight inside, but that doesn't really happen too often. Most of the time, they have suicided, backspace, Alt F4. They're gone by the time we get on their ship, most of the time. But that is the gameplay that we're here looking for, really. So yes, I would much rather prefer that player behavior is directed into actually playing the game instead of like trying to cheese your way out of it. And they made improvements with combat logging, which was a huge problem for us up until this year. Combat logs were like happening at, I'd say, somewhere around 50% of our encounters. It'd just be a combat log. I'm like, all right, great. Well, move on to the next, right? That was that. So we're in a better place than we were, but there's still a long, long ways to go before it's the gameplay experience that I thought I was going to get when I opened up my wallet fucking a decade ago.
A
Jack.
decade.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a long
yes.
time. That's a long time, isn't it, Jack?
It's almost. We're like months. We're a few months away from a decade now.
Is there a reason or a mindset to, and I'm the only reason why I'm asking you this is, I've caught a few of your streams. I a lot of my my wife calls me a streamer slut, so I hop from stream to stream. I'm watching all kinds of streamers, but um, is there a why is this mentality with the cargo runners? If and maybe I'm asking you this because maybe you have a finger on the pulse for this. Why is the mentality in most cargo runners to just backspace or Alt F4 or hit self destruct immediately? Like what's the mentality behind that?
So a lot of it's basically taking your ball and going home. Um, you know, let's be honest. Most of the people that play the game, we're older now. definitely a lot older when we first signed up, and you want to be able to sit down and just kind of do something you enjoy. Um, and while it is, a PvP slash PvE game, there's a lot of hope that you don't run into that PvP aspect. And there's a lot of there's a lot of aggression towards someone who wants to take your cargo. It's like I've just risked like a million, and now I've got some, jerkwad and a hornet. Well, Cutlass Blue shooting me is going to blow me up. And while it is gameplay and it is, you know, agreed upon tolerable gameplay, it's that they're sliding me. They're taking away hours that I've put into this. I have worked for that money, and I don't want them to have it. And if it looks like I can have it, then nobody can have it. That's the never pay your pirate, because a lot of people feel like if you pay a pirate or they get your cargo, it encourages them to keep doing it or to get more ambitious with it. There's a mentality that if you starve the pirate, they will give up and stop pirating, and there will be an overall decrease in piracy.
Out this Pyro.
Now, yeah, exactly. Now, the thing is, that might work in real life, where, if you do a bunch of stuff, you go away for 20 years or whatever. But
Mhm.
it's the game. And a lot of people go, okay, well, that didn't work there. I was in Klesher for an hour. How can I do this better? Like, how can I improve this? How can I actually take these guys out and pirate next time? Like, that's the thing. Dead men tell no tales only works when you've only got one life. I wake up in a med bed after the meat spool printer has remade my body, and I can go out and pirate again. I'm hungry, and now I'm looking to actually make it work. But for a lot of traders, we feel like that if you starve them out, then you won't have to worry about it. I don't think that's correct, but that's just me.
I mean, if I could respond to that, um,
By all means.
yeah. So only recently has okay. So I stopped doing any PVE missions or trading or mining 2.5 years ago, like fully, and I was mostly done with it about 3 years ago. And since then, I have been able to support myself through piracy 100%. Sometimes people give me some money, but most of the time it's just what I've made from pirating. And it's been slim pickings. It's been real slim pickings
Oh yeah.
sometimes. But then maybe you hit a million AUEC score and you're like, great, I'm set on gas money for the next 6 months. Like that's all I needed,
Yeah.
right? And so like when I hear, from the kind of trader side that like, yeah, we spent a week, earning up this money, and I think like, yeah, we spent about a week hunting for that money, and so like it all kind of in the end kind of shakes out a little bit. And like I think if you're and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're a full-time trader, you're probably losing more money to bugs and glitches and shit than you are to pirates. But at the end of the day, your bank account is still going up, right?
Yeah. Like
So
I have lost over 100 million to bugs. I have lost 1 million to pirates.
yeah, right, exactly. So, from my perspective, I'm like, yeah, well, yes, I just dinged this player's wallet, and they're gonna be upset about that. But like, let's be real, the game has robbed them of so much more time and effort and money, fancy, make believe money than I ever have or could, right, for this one player. Um, so to me, the level of animosity that is directed at me feels very disproportionate. Although I do understand that we all, are invested often emotionally into this video game, and so it's not unexpected, but it is sometimes surprising.
There's if I could add another thing too. Um
Yeah.
there's also different motivations. Okay, so like look at traders. We look at things like profit per hour, profit per run, where can we, cut costs, things like that. Most pirates that I know do piracy for the fun of it. There's that heist feel of pulling off a heist. the thrill of it. The money's good, but if you really wanted to just make money and make the big money number go up, you could go do other things. You're not doing piracy because it's profitable. You're doing it because you want to. So you have this clashing of mentalities. I'm over here going, all right, this makes profit go up. And then I've got a pirate who they don't even exist as a person. It's a here's a massive profit loss. And it's an avoidable profit loss because someone's choosing to make me lose the profit. And if it was a 30K, I'd still be upset, but a 30K doesn't have emotions. I can't argue with a 30K. It's, oh no, why has this person decided to take away my money? They're evil, they're vile, they're vicious, they're aggressive. They're taking away my perceived hard earned money. And it's just seen as a massive avoidable profit loss. And that's why a lot of people get upset because it's like your gameplay is taking away my gameplay. And while that's true in a very literal sense, there's just different mentalities between the professions, and that's why a lot of people get upset. Also, traders like to be left alone, and the very nature of piracy is to not leave someone alone.
Yeah, and I don't know if there will ever be a way to like kind of reconcile that difference between the styles of play and what those two groups are after, because you're absolutely right. Like I'm not opening up my wallet every day and be like, oh sweet, I got more money than I did yesterday, doing good. For me, the measure is, did we score a few hits tonight? Dope, we did it. Did we not get anything? That sucks. Lame day,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And like I think a lot of people, like a lot of traders, get upset because like, okay, let's talk previous economy before the whole barrel gold thing, yada yada yada. C2, to buy a C2 full of titanium, you were spending over 400K to make about 100K. So let's say you hit that run, all right, and I lose it all. That is about 5 runs to make that back up. That's, let's say you're not the best pilot in the world. That's about a 2 hour setback right there as far as profit per hour.
Yep.
So that has robbed someone of 2 hours of advancement if everything goes right to make that back up. And then they spend that 2 hours stewing about it. And it just kind of reinforces that whole darn dirty pirate mentality that they get because the ability to bounce back was so difficult. And that might become easier in the future. But in trading, like if you lose it, you get slapped hard before you can get back up again. And I think that's also another reason people got so upset about it.
Do you think it's the time that people are upset about, or do you think sometimes it comes with, well, I invested this much money in the game, I
Is there a
I don't
pay
want
to
to
win
say I
element?
win. I don't want to say I win, but because I open my wallet and I have spent this money on this ship, this should not be happening to me. Or do you think it's just a time thing?
I mean, I think it's both. Dirty, what did you have there? I think you've got something there.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I've definitely seen the yo, I spent whatever it is, $1,000 on my Carrack. There should be absolutely no way a solo pirate can successfully take my ship. And to that I say, bullshit, especially under the current fucking Armistice Zone tactics. It's actually real easy to steal that Carrack. But yeah, I don't know. I'm maybe losing my train of thought here. What is the question one more time?
Is it time spent or money spent in?
Right. It's definitely both. It's definitely both. I think as far as the time goes, I do recognize that, especially with previous economies, it would take a long time to build up, right? That amount of money that we maybe caused a player to lose. But then, the way I think about it is, okay, well, if we're looking at it from the time perspective, it's me plus 4 or 5 other people, and we just spent probably 30 minutes to an hour looking for that target. So if you look at like the collective time spent, a lot of times the pirates as a group are spending much more time looking for these targets to make the same amount of money. Especially if you're thinking about like we're dividing that split up, it takes us forever to make that kind of money. And of course, that's not the gameplay we're here. You're completely right about that. But yes, when you're looking at it from the industrialist perspective, it's both. It's clearly, I've put in the time. You shouldn't be able to do this to me, based on how bad it hits. And I think there is also the pay to win element too of I've got this big badass ship. Why are these tiny little pirate ships able to like even bother me? Although I don't see that a lot. I do think it exists.
Yeah, and like if I can go back to the time part right quick too.
Mm.
Star Citizen attracts a much older crowd. Like you got a few like teens, young adults that play and whatnot. But when you get older, you suddenly have a lot less free time. So, a lot of people, get home from their soul sucking job or whatever. They got to take care of some kids, a significant other, and the amount of time they can commit to a game becomes a lot less than when they were a kid. Maybe they can only sit down for an hour or two, and they go, finally, I can kick back, relax, and do the thing I want to do. For an hour or two, I get to be some space captain. It's that fantasy of the game. And then
Mhm.
to have it disrupted through perfectly viable gameplay is still a very, I don't want to call it traumatizing, but it's certainly annoying. It's like I only get 1 or 2 hours, maybe tops, to play, and suddenly these yayos are ruining it. I'm losing money, I'm losing time. I wanted to do my space captain thing, pretend to be Kirk on my USS Enterprise that I had to misname because whatever, and suddenly these yeehaws are showing up blowing it up, and people get upset about that, having the bubble popped on their wind down time.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Um, Although I do think that to assume that you're not going to see any player versus player encounters in a game that clearly states that that's possible seems like, I don't know, wishful thinking to me a little bit. Like, I don't know if we can realistically expect that from a game that tells us from the get that that's possible.
Oh yeah, but it would never happen to me.
Well, yes, of course, it would never happen to me. There is always that.
So, uh, there was a question I was going to ask, and I had it and it's gone. Um, do you feel that there will ever be there will ever be a coming together of traders and miners and the PvP crowd? It seems like the divide is not only is it there, but it's widening and it's getting far more. I hate using toxic as a word, but it's getting far more mudslingy than usual.
I mean, when we actually have a viable game to play, maybe we'll shut up and actually play it. Because I feel like a lot of that is happening right now because we're just sitting on the sidelines waiting for it. It's like when you've got two dogs with a fence between them, how angry they get. And when they can finally intermix, it's like, oh, hello, let's be civil. Like I enjoy the PvP and piracy element, but that's me. I don't speak for everybody. And there's always going to be friction because that's how it goes. Like a lot of the PvP crowd get to interact with each other, but part of that, like piracy, has to interact in an antagonistic way with the PvE crowd who wants to be left alone. So like, there's always going to be a little bit of friction, but I don't see why we can't exist and at least be civil. Now, granted, a lot of that toxicity happens on things like Spectrum or forums in general, which are always just a cesspit to get through.
The
But
keyboard warriors.
yeah, exactly. But I feel like a lot of the interaction I see in game is a lot more civil. Now I could be wrong there because I'm not on the pirate side. That's probably survivorship bias right there.
Yeah.
I'm not there in the aftermath to watch it happen. But I feel like if it was easier to bounce back, we had a finished game, and there were ways to minimize your risk of it, or at the very least take precautions and go, well, that happened because I wasn't, I gambled and I lost, and I can be aware of that. Then yeah, I think people could get along better. Uh, but that's also me. I also play on the Australian servers because the chat's nicer there. So I'm just gonna leave that.
Yeah, we see a lot of hostility. A lot of it is just kind of your typical, like, fuck you guys, you jerks, But yeah, I mean, evil, sociopath, we've been called it all, and some things that, according to what is publicly available, would be questionable language in chat. See it all the time, not every day. But
Yeah, I've seen
yeah.
a few people telling you to go commit die. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of an issue. But can we ever like come together? I think for the solo industrially minded player, it's gonna be really hard to ever like accept that piracy is a thing and it's gonna happen probably at some point to you. But as the game progresses and matures and orgs become more viable, honestly, like there's more of a point in having an organization from like a group cohesion and you can have one guy taking care of one thing so the other guy can do this other thing more efficiently, and then once we can share our resources um, and like effectively pay people. Like the payment system is better now than it was before, but I think it's got a long ways to go before it's really functional for an org. Um, Once we get to that point, I think it might make sense for these orgs who focus more on the industrial aspects of the gameplay to employ maybe not pirates, but privateers who are willing to work for them in order to take out their competition, or maybe make it so that you know they're affecting the market in some beneficial way for that org. And at that point, I think there may be some intermingling of the piracy and industrialist side. I also think we're starting to see, I don't know, very, very little of like the PvP crowd, which I separate from the pirate crowd. I think the PvPers are more of like the bounty hunters, the sentinels and protectors of the org spaces, right? And functions.
Murder hobos.
And the murder hobos are in there too, right? They're definitely in there too, right? But I think that there are parts of those groups that the industrialists will really want to have around because the pirates are going to be out looking for them. And at some point in the game, I really hope it makes sense financially, speaking for everybody, and from an entertainment value perspective, for that to be the case. Maybe more often than not, in terms when we're talking about like the larger orgs and where they're doing what they're doing.
yeah, and like I would love to be able to do that shadier side of industry. Like the corporate sabotage, the espionage. Like a lot of people look at large logistics companies, and they forget that a lot of people would hire dyed in the wool criminals to deal with competition. Like you've got your robber barons of the 1800s with railroads
Mm.
removing people who would take them out. So like I think both sides could work there. Now a lot of industrialists want to be squeaky clean and shinier, but there is an element there to go, yeah, by the way, pirates, if you could make sure something unfortunate happened to this big score that's about to go through here, I would appreciate it. Or, hold this place down so I can at least go buy cargo there and no one else can.
Yeah, and that has like we have had some offers, but it felt like this was at this point in the game more of like a role playing thing than like something that actually
Yeah.
happens in the game.
Yeah.
And so I've always turned them down. And first of all, I don't think I want to bring Chaos Squad in the direction of privateering. I think we always want to kind of work for ourselves and just be our own thing. But even if we didn't, there's really not much point in it right now. I mean, and I gave those people those answers like 2 years ago, and that hasn't changed in those 2 years.
Mind if I shift gears a little bit onto the what might be of Star Citizen?
Let's go.
I'm good.
So I asked Captain this the last time we talked, and I'll have to ask him again in case other people would like to know. But I'll start with you first, Jack. What a, this is all speculation, so you can run wild with this. What is Pyro going to mean for the trading community?
A reason to go there. I'm going to need a reason to risk going to Pyro. I know they say lore-wise it's economically devastated, but lore never seems to measure up with what actually happens in game. So there needs to be reasons for us to go there. Like I need to be able to go, that's risky, but look at that reward. Look at that money that can be made. Or that could even be an opportunity for small traders to go, well, there's not a lot of cargo, but I've got a fast ship and a couple of boxes I can throw back here. I can make a heck of a lot of money this way instead of sitting around in Crusader. Like there just needs to be a reason to show up, a reason to make that trip.
Okay, Captain. I like I said, I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, but what is Pyro going to mean for piracy?
Yeah, well, so if it plays out the way Jack, is hoping, and there is a incentive for traders to go to Pyro, then we'll see pirates there. That's just the way it's gonna go, right? My expectation, though, is that there may be, if they're staying true to the lore, which we've already agreed they probably won't do. But it's the only thing we really have to go off of right now. So let's just assume that, okay, there's probably not going to be a lot of like valuable raw material there. Otherwise, people would be there extracting it for the money. If it's economically devastated, then okay, it's going to be a place where outlaws and bandits and ne'er-do-wells hang out because there's going to be less consequences there. I don't know. Those people are going to need things to make their station function and continue to do the things that they want to do. So maybe that thing that brings the traders out there is we need to sell stuff to Old Ruin, right? Now, I kind of doubt. I mean, there's going to be a large group of players that are going to be like, fuck those guys. We're not bringing them food. But,
Hey, I will.
yeah, but maybe another group will say, yeah, I'll take that risk and we'll do it. And maybe we won't get pirated on the way in. But I don't know. I think that I will be surprised if the majority of piracy does not continue to happen in Stanton after the release of Pyro, mainly because that's where most of our targets will continue to congregate, I predict.
I also want to say right quick, I'm kind of excited to see what piracy does in 3.20 because with the new large boxes we're supposed to be getting, you can actually go after things that aren't gold, like profit per hour on like titanium or beryl would be fun because that we don't have to move 500 boxes to actually go make a buck.
Are those going to be available for every ship or just the Hull C?
I believe they're supposed to be available for every ship. Don't quote me though. But I think it's the thing where it tries to fill the 32 SCU space, and then anything that can't hold that, it uses smaller boxes for. But
Okay.
I think there's primarily trying to go as large as possible because one, that's less things to spawn, that's less stress on the server to keep up with 500 boxes instead of 12. But that way you don't have to spend 3 hours moving 500 boxes. So instead of going, oh God, it's titanium, just let it go, it goes, takes 5 minutes to load, let's grab it and sell it.
It may
And
be. I
think
think
so?
I think maybe. I think it makes sense for some groups, smaller crews, right? Yeah, they might see that titanium ship and be like, "Yep, we'll take it." But the larger your crew gets, the more you're splitting the score up, right? And so once you get
Yeah.
past like 5 or 6, you're really looking for the big the big score where you're profiting a million, right? And then everybody gets like a bit more than 100K, right? And you call that a good profit. So in a way, the pirates are we're kind of got, dollar signs in our eyes too, right? Because we don't want to waste time. I mean, yeah, we don't really care about the money that much, but if we're going to put in time moving boxes, we want it to be worthwhile. And so, yeah, it will make sense for a certain section of the pirate player base to look at those other targets who might be hauling other things, kind of based on like, oh yeah, I'm not going to move 500 boxes that are only worth 10 AUEC each, right? But I will do it if it's only going to take 5 minutes. Then I think that will happen. But I still think probably most of the pirates are still going to be like looking for that big score because that's just kind of how pirates be.
Oh
So
yeah, of course.
Sparkle Burst did the math. It's 2132 SCU boxes will fit in a C2. So I think that would make it a lot easier on everybody to be moving around 21 boxes instead of, what is it, 596?
696.
Yeah, 696. Yeah, I think that would be a lot easier to do than that.
Yeah, we have to have like a crew of 5 pirates solely focused on moving boxes to do that in any kind of reasonable time period.
Yeah. See, you want to be a pirate, not a warehouse worker.
Well, I mean, but being a warehouse worker is part of being a pirate. But you spend 30 to 40 minutes looking for your target, 5 minutes attacking it, and another hour cleaning up the mess, right? And so the math there is a little weird. I'd like to see those ratios change a bit. I think that would definitely be good.
Yeah, exactly.
I usually ask all the people that come on. I guess this is the Scarred show. I don't know. I don't know. I seem to be doing a lot of these lately, and I enjoy them. I'm not complaining. I'm enjoying them a lot. Is there is there I asked Captain this the last time as well. Are there ships that you really just can't live without for cargo running? And are you excited for any new ships that might be coming out for cargo running?
Kraken.
Yes, let's go!
Like,
Okay.
I know it sounds silly, but I 100% plan to use a Kraken as a cargo ship. Thing is covered in turrets. You got escorts. You can bring them with you. They don't even have to fly until something shows up. And it is the largest landable cargo hauler. That thing can show up anywhere and economically devastate anything.
I, I like how he is thinking about the economic warfare. That's pretty cool. I wonder if that'll actually. No, that's too advanced. I don't even want to get into that. So currently in Star Citizen, what are the go-to trading vessels? Like if somebody wants to get into trading, like how do they
C2.
go about it? C2?
Pretty much the C2. Like, you can get started in something medium sized running goal, like 66 SCU and up with a basic freelancer. Not a lot of people going to do it because generally you can make more money mining or doing literally anything else. But unless you were just super industrially focused and hate rocks, once you get above 100 SCU, you pretty much have to gold run. If you don't want to do that, you go with C2. Caterpillar used to be the belle of the ball, but the C2 is just basically better in every way. It handles like a fat Vanguard, has more cargo, more fuel, and it's just better for a solo runner. So everybody goes to C2. Not to mention it's just slightly more expensive than a Caterpillar in game. So yeah, C2 is what everybody goes for. I fly the Caterpillar because I like it more. But yeah, C2 is where it's at.
All right.
Caterpillar is a
Captain.
better pirate cargo hauling ship, I have to say, because it is much easier to load the 3 open bays on it than it is for the
Yes.
C2. The C2 is such a hassle to load up that we often will fly the Cat instead.
Caterpillar also has slightly more anti pirate measures to it. They're not intended but if someone gets on your lift, one, the lift doesn't move by itself on the
Hmm.
caterpillar. Eventually, a C2 lift will go up.
That's
Um,
right.
but if I leave my lift down, what a lot of people do, they'll just stand on the lift. So if I go to buy cargo, it's like, hey, you can't really buy cargo with people on the ship. That way I know someone's waiting for me, and I've saved myself a headache. And yeah, I think it's better that way. Like it hasn't popped up a lot, but it's still a thing that helps.
That's something that I hadn't really thought about is, yeah, if we put somebody on the ship before they go to purchase, they're just going to know that somebody is on their ship. And so it doesn't really come up that often anyways, but it's good to know that like that is how the game would function at this point.
Yeah, like don't step on the lift until they start like they run back. Um, I'm probably gonna regret saying that, but yeah,
We see so few cats anyhow, that usually it's the C2s that we see. And
yeah,
yeah, we love it when they leave. When I mean, if you're trying to just walk on board a C2, it's so easy. There's no way that the pilot can get onto it without you also getting on, and so it's
exactly.
just a waiting game.
And since it goes up by itself, like all you have to do is wait, and eventually you're inside.
Right.
Because like, okay, like if I send the lift up, you can still get on with me when I go, no matter what. So
Hmm.
either way, I'm going to have a border. With the caterpillar, I could just leave it where it is and not worry, and we can just wait each other out.
Yeah, I mean, the situations are similar, but you are better off with the cat, I think.
And it's just a better looking ship.
Yes, definitely.
I'm partial to the A2. I mean, I don't haul. I mean, I haul war machines and drop bombs, but that's that's about it. Uh, but then again, I'm a strange guy when it comes to playing Star Citizen.
Fun fact: did you know that the bombs of an A2 can affect ships in Armistice? It won't hurt them, but it can knock them around and blow them out of Armistice.
Um, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
Yep.
A couple streams ago, I did that. Some guys were playing. They were playing the game of. So we went to SMO. I think it was 22 to check to see if there was any traders there. I was trying to show Pagan that you can be a naughty but nice guy when you pirate people. And what turned into me checking out the area, I got somebody rammed me. I was in Armistice. They pulled their ship above me and then did one of them. And I didn't get too, I mean, I laughed about it. And I went and grabbed another ship and went back there. And before we knew it, so we got two groups going back and forth over this place. Why? Just because it's fun and we're blowing each other up. And they kept taking ballistas and they would pull them out of Armistice, shoot them a few times, and then drive back in. So we couldn't do anything. And I happened to time it just right where the guy came out and was shooting up his missiles, and I dropped a bomb on him, and a couple of guys were in the Armistice zone, and they got tossed around all over the place. I was really hoping one of them would hit one of the light poles over there, but it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Ooh, affecting things in Armistice. I can't wait to hear about the suspension.
Yeah, careful. Careful there. You might catch a warning yourself. And I also saw somebody with a
Wear that with a badge of honor.
right.
Exactly.
Um, I saw somebody
Thank you, Pagan.
using the reclaimer elevator to dip their players inside the hull of other ships, right? Because you have gravity on the reclaimer elevator. You park your reclaimer over whatever ship you want to board, and then you go down the elevator, and you can just clip right on through, right? And so, there's a million cheesy ways to deal with like armistice campers, but none of them are superior than like actually playing the game and just taking out your guns and shooting each other. And it still baffles me that we are not there yet.
I mean, one day, soon.
Yeah. Soon
Uh,
TM.
One of some of my I don't know about any of you guys, but a lot of the pirate stuff that I watch, it doesn't really, and this is not a shot at any pirate group in general, but a lot of the pirate stuff that I watch, I don't get overly excited by. When I get overly excited and I'm like, this is awesome, is when they soft death the ship because the guy's not responding, he's not, not doing anything. And then we got 2, 3 guys EVAing out, and just as they're about to get there, all of a sudden there's a bunch of shots flying from the inside of the ship. One pirate's down. Now you got shots going back in there, and it turns into this whole 15-minute adventure of people throwing grenades in ships, gunshots going off, and then one side or the other wins. And it just doesn't happen that often, and I wish it did. I really do.
That is the gameplay we're here for, right? And at least on the pirate side, and probably a lot of the people on the other side too, really wouldn't mind a little bit of it now and again. And some of my favorite moments are like, yeah, being on that ship and I hear an explosion happen somewhere. I'm like, guys, what just happened? What's going on out there? And like, it's on, dude. They're showing up. Like, let's go. Hurry up with the loot. Like, let's get it moving. And it gets the adrenaline pumping. And yeah, those are the hits you remember.
Like, okay, so the other day I got hit by Mongrel Squad. Like we'd had a little bit of a tiff at SMO 18, and I got away. And then we met up again over at Ida. I'm like, oh, let's stay and fight. You know what? Like, I got a friend. Well, it turns out that was a bad idea. Because I'm doing it for fun, but it was a bad idea. I gambled and I lost, and I got soft death. And like, yeah, I still had my guns on me, so I'm on the ground. And I've got friends coming in, they've got friends coming in, and it's a fight both in the air and on the ground. Like, I have at least 1 or 2 people in the area popping us as we're trying to recover the cargo to other ships. And it became this fight back and forth as they would secure the area, then we would secure the area. And at each point, we're taking boxes off the ship. And it was so fun to try to fight to recover the cargo and then get moved out, watch them take it, and then come back in force. And just again, ebb and flow back and forth. And it was so great. And I love that. My bank account did, but I'm not really caring about the money at this point.
Good gameplay trumps the space bucks going into your Moby Glass, at least in my opinion. I enjoy it. I can play Star Citizen and lose $1 million in 2 days in space bucks, and as long as I was having fun, I don't even care.
Yeah, like CIG can't wipe a good experience. I'll always have that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Best way of putting it.
Exactly. So we're getting closer and closer to 2 hours here. I don't want to put it on you guys like this, but I'm going to put it on you guys like this. Since Captain, you're kind of like the the representative of pirates right now, and Jack, you're kind of like the representative of cargo haulers. Like, what would you, how would you say we could get this kind of gameplay more? Is there one thing that we could do over another to get this kind of gameplay, to make these kind of memories? Because come on, I'm sure most cargo haulers don't want to just be in their white suit all the time and leave me alone. And pirates don't want to be like, oh well, he backspaced again. That almost was fun. Is there any way we can get a word out that the gameplay is worth it instead of just logging, alt F4ing, backspacing, and all the other stuff? Is there a way we can get that word out?
The thing that Jack, do you want to go first?
No, man, go for it.
Okay,
go for it.
The thing that comes to mind for me is to just play the game. Like, we bought a game, and the game is flying spaceships around and shooting guns, and for some people it's buying stuff and moving stuff and shaping and changing the way that the economies are working. But since now we are in a state where it is possible for one player on either side of the coin to say, nope, gameplay is not happening. I'm just going to sit inside my safety bubble here, and nothing can touch me. You can't touch me, right? And that is not fun. It's just not fun. And so, like, I can understand somebody wanting to go and hang out in protection for a little while and maybe they want to call for their backup that they've got nearby. Sure, great. I'll give you a few minutes, but I'm not waiting 20 to play the game, So I don't know. There's nothing that like I can really do to make that happen. But I would like to see from the other side of the coin a willingness to engage in just playing the game. And like we've got some people making content saying like, traders, are you getting attacked by pirates? Here's what you do. I'm an expert. Go camp in AZ. And that's the end of the advice. When actually, if you understand the mechanics around the quantum dampening and at what points you can actually jump away and how all that functions together, it's actually super easy to avoid piracy in 90% of the situations.
Yeah, like you pretty much cannot be quantum dampened on moons as long as you
Right.
know what you're doing. But
Correct. For whatever reason, not very many people know this. So I mean, it's a little shocking to me. But yeah. So I don't know. That's where it sits for me.
How about you, Jack?
as far as like the trader mentality, I've noticed a lot of us like to be loners. Like we like to do our own thing, which can be difficult at times in what is considered an MMO, and would rather exit the situation than have to deal with it when it becomes, aggressive. Um, I think the biggest thing that would have to change is maybe making the economy slightly more forgiving, where people don't have that mentality of, I've worked so hard for this and I would rather see it explode than anyone take it. And at the same time, also be more willing to engage with other people, like find like minded friends. Hornswoggle your real life friends into actually playing the game. I'm so sorry. Don't actually do that. Don't. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But finding other people that you can group up with. Like, you don't even have to be the best gun. You don't have to be this amazing escort. All you need to do is separate the pirate long enough to let the cargo get away. And I'm gonna get sad here, but I feel like the biggest part there is making those friends. Once you get out of school, making friends is hard,
Mm.
and I feel like a lot of people kind of give up on that instead of actually trying to find others who feel the same way. You know, that's what an org is for, at least a group to play with. Sometimes reaching out to people can be very tough to make those friends, or at least associates who will help you. But I think making friends who would be willing to fly with you and help you with that situation would would go a very long way when it comes to actually having the interaction to turn and fight, or at the very least distract and run instead of alt F4ing.
You were talking about running convoys earlier, and I wonder if there's a commodity where, let's say you have four people running, your C2s, your cats, or whatever, and you do see some pirates, and they have, I don't know, let's just say two QED ships, right? So a very simple tactic here is the convoy splits up. You're gonna have enough time to tank you're gonna have enough shields to take the damage where at least half of your party can get away. I wonder if there's some point in the commodity list where you actually could still profit even after getting pirated on the like incredibly off chance that that happens to you most of the time.
See, that's the thing. Like right now, there's not. Like the only commodities that have a very high profit margin, and by high I mean like 27%, are things that most people don't run. Like fluorine or scrap or something highly limited like distilled spirits. Like we need a commodity that if I lose part of it, I'm still going to profit. Like if I lost two of those four ships, I would essentially be at even or slightly less. Cause like, with a barrel, for example. Yeah, I might make 300,000 if it makes it to port at maximum profit, which doesn't happen rarely, the maximum profit. But if I lose that, I'm at least out 1.6 million. And that's the thing. Like, I need to be able to see that bounce back or a reason to soak the cost. Like when I run in convoy, I bring up the rear. I let everyone else take a seat too. I take the caterpillar. That way, I'm the target. I'm fat. I'm slow, and I'm the last one out. But I'm also the one losing the least amount. That 500 SCU instead of 696. But yeah, like I would like to see that where like if I run that risk and I lose a little bit, there's still a reason to run as a group.
Mm. I think eventually we'll get there. Like like we kind of discussed earlier about the dynamic economy and things fluctuating and changing. I think eventually we'll get there, but it's always wait and see. And you guys know better than I do about waiting and seeing.
Answer the call 2016.
Still waiting.
Still waiting.
What was Answer the Call 2016?
That was their motto of when the game was going to come out back in the day. They always ran these
Oh,
ads of "Answer the Call 2016," and unfortunately, that has gone to voicemail for the last 7 years.
all right, all right. So, I'm sure people got things they want to do, but I got one, maybe two more questions for you guys, and I wouldn't be a good host if I didn't ask this. I've seen it come up a few times in chat. Controversy around the PTU.
We're gonna get going on this one. Okay.
Just, if you guys got to get going and things like that, you can dip out whenever, but because I know this could take up a lot of time, but
I'm
I
good.
had to ask it. Okay, I had to ask it.
Of course, of course.
I've had a bunch of people in chat ask it. I kind of want to know your guys' opinion. Whoever wants to go first, the PTU controversy.
So, Captain, you want to take this one first, or should I?
I'll go ahead. I'm gonna be quick. So from my understanding, and I'm not sure I completely understand it because it's a little fucking convoluted, but from what I understand, I'm a subscriber at this point. I've been subscribing for a while, mainly to get early access to the PTU waves, but I haven't really needed that for 6 months at this point. But for me, I don't think things really change. I still have the same level of access that I always have had. Um, but I understand that now, what is it? If you're a concierge, that doesn't really matter anymore. Is that right?
That
Correct.
is, yes, that is correct.
So yeah, that seems like a slap in the face to those guys, man. If I paid that kind of money, and they're like, "Yeah, actually, you're gonna have to hit like little more, guys, little more." I know you got it, right? That would
Do,
piss
do
me
you want to
off.
do you want a quick breakdown real quick of how the waves work out now?
Sure.
So you got Evo, right? And that's still standard. And then wave one is the most amount of hours played, the people that have the most amount of hours played, and they don't give you an indication as to how long that is. They get in wave one. Subscribers get into wave one, and Legatus gets into wave one. So Legatus is 25,000 spent. They get into wave
Okay.
one. Subs get
Okay.
into wave one, and then most hours. Wave two is the next most amount of hours, which they don't give a time on. Subscribers, Praetorians, they get in. Wave three is, and I can't remember all of them, but it's subscribers, the next most amount of hours played, and then it's like Sky Marshal, Admiral, or like Grand Admiral, and another one. So it's like the 15, just under 15K down to like, I think it's 10K spent into the game. Wave four is the 5K concierge level subscribers and the next most amount of hours played. Wave five is open to everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the thing that I think about that comes to mind for me is their reasoning for
Thank you,
doing
Captain.
this, where they say, "Oh yeah, we're not getting the like levels of players that we want when we want them in our testing phases, so we're going to restructure this." To me, that kind of smells like bullshit. Because like I feel like there are other ways that they could manage that. without asking players to open up their wallets to have the same level of access that they already had. And just from a kind of customer service standpoint, to really bring this fucking full circle, you can't as a as a company give your customers something and then take it away and expect them to not be pissed at you. So I don't know why people are like, I don't know if you're shocked that people are angry at CIG. I don't think you have any grounds for that. I think it should be no surprise at all.
Jack?
Okay, so I've done some math right quick, and I'm not the best at math, so I had to use a calculator. Um, but here's my take. I'm gonna get a little bit snarky here. Um, I'm fine with meritocracy when it comes to whole oh, you've played a lot, if you reported a bunch, yeah, let's let you in. So wave
I'm
one, wave two. Like you're putting in the work for a game that you paid for, which is odd, but we'll take the help. Um, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with them restructuring the way they have up
mhm,
until it's the whole, hey, you can bypass this with $10. And I'm not knocking subscribers. You're giving money, you should get things in return. But now they've got these things that are kind of jostling with each other. Now, to get into concierge, the minimum to get into concierge is $1,000, which I don't know if CIG realizes this, but that's actually a lot of money
mm.
to spend on a video game. Like I know a lot of people were screaming about what is the game about to come out? The Bethesda game, Space Skyrim,
Starfield.
Starfield, yeah, screaming about it, being $70 now instead of 60. Meanwhile, most of us in Star Citizen are awkwardly not trying to look at our bill pay history. Because there's people that have spent a lot more than $1,000 on Star
Mhm.
Citizen. But I've done some math here. Now, $10 is, of course, $10. That buys you a month of subscriber access. The minimum to get into concierge is $1,000. So if you break that up by $10, if you divide that, that becomes 100. So let's say that's 100. That's 100 instances of subscribing. You break that up into the month amounts. That is 8.3 years of subscriber as far as the same money acquired. That's
Right.
8 years and some change that would take in the same amount having a subscriber status with Star Citizen. Now, I get that CIG needs new money. The money that I gave them years ago doesn't exist anymore. They've spent it on I don't know, the beer keg or whatever, that giant cake they had in 2018. And they need new money. Um, that's fine. And subscriber is a heck of a lot easier than modeling a brand new ship to sell. But don't disguise it under meritocracy when you say you can bypass it with $10 and then take away the perks that concierges has. Like the reason concierge has grown to as large as it is because the game hasn't came out yet. And if you're saying that it's costing you guys this much to run servers for wave 1 PTU, we've got to find something else that doesn't tick off the people who have a history of giving you more money, which is concierge. Um, but yeah, that's the way. That's how I feel about it. Um, I think concierge should still have access to wave one. I also want to say, and this is just a very snide remark on my end, that I guarantee you that there is a hidden subset of players that get wave one access, and you can find most of them in the top 10 section on Twitch. But that is just my take.
I honestly wouldn't doubt that. I'm not going to outright say I have empirical evidence that the top 10 on Twitch get in before other people, but it does seem like that a lot of times, doesn't it?
That's what it feels like. I
The Go ahead.
I was just to say there's a history also of like ships soon to come out hitting that particular subset of players before Evocati has even seen it,
Mhm.
which is
Yep, we've seen
always
that.
super fun to watch.
Yeah. What's the infatuation with Twitch? I don't understand it.
Free
Like,
marketing, and also since they use Amazon servers and Amazon owns
Hmm.
Twitch, uh, a reason to circular market there.
Yeah,
okay.
there's
I
probably
mean, I
some
get it.
sweetheart deals going on, something like that, right?
Yeah, because like once the ship is out, the overhead is gone. It's like, hey, buddy, promote our game. Here's a ship to give out. It costs us nothing. Like we've already paid the people to make it. The initial investment's gone. If I hand out 10 of these, it costs me nothing. But man, that is free marketing, and it's a good thing to do. Like, do the cheap marketing. That's what you should. That's profit. That's pure profit. It just kind of leaves a dirty taste in some people's mouth.
One last question, and I guess we can wrap this up. Um, do you feel that the money grab? Do you guys feel that the money grab has become a lot more deeper reaching into the wallets as of late from CIG?
I can continue my rant there. I
Go
feel like
for it.
it is a little bit. I'm not sure if you guys have tracked the money coming in over this year,
It's a
I've
but
bit
I've looked at
less.
it a few times.
yeah, like they've had a lot less coming in. I feel like the years long 317 we had something to do with that. They need like what is it, a minimum of 40 million a year
Hmm.
to to keep things going. And the thing is, like, you can still have money and ride out a bad year. But with most companies, if you didn't make more money than you did last year, even if you've got enough money to survive and pay everything else and still have an amount in the bank, that's still considered a bad year.
Yeah, you need
And
growth. You want
yeah,
growth.
it's constant growth. And realistically, that's not sustainable. But uh, let's be honest, no one ever tracks an economy realistically. CIG chief among them. But yeah, so they're going to look for creative ways to make money where they can. And a subscribership is a guaranteed $10 a month fresh money versus someone buying a cutlass and then never again. That is a thing that usually you can rely on. So I don't like what they've done. I can't exactly blame them in the words of commerce, but I feel like they have to find creative ways to make money without increasing overhead. That's not bad for players. Like, make more flair. Have a flair department where you can just buy these things. And instead of going, hey, we're going to take away access, but give you the ability to buy that access again, like, give us something that we perceive as meaningful. It doesn't have to be meaningful, but something that players might perceive as good value.
Yeah, I don't know. They could have done this in a lot of different ways that, like, might have ended up in making them more money and pissing off less people if they just, I don't know, did a little bit of a frame shift here. I look at every other MMO ever, and they all have like monthly subscriber fees, and you pay that, and you get full access to the game unless there's some new expansion that you have to buy, and then okay, fair play.
Right.
But CIG could have done that. They could have said, okay, we're at a point now where the servers are costing us so much a month that, we need you guys to start pitching in for that server load. And then fine, you're going to piss some people off. You're going to lose some people. Um, but I think most of us are in a point in our lives where we can peel off $10 a month to play a video game, right?
Yeah, like it's a lot easier to afford $10 right now than $100. And
Hmm.
then, you also forget to cancel it, so that's free money there. Yeah.
My take on all of this is, I would have left it kind of the same. Leave concierge status for like late wave one, but I did like, people with the most amount of hours played in game get first crack at wave one. Those
Yeah.
are the people that are willing to play the game and are willing to put the time in. Um, I would have liked to see what like I saw Grumpy talk about it, Loud Guns, Eradicator, and a handful of other people, you know, incentivize the PTU. You know, it doesn't have to be big stuff. Like maybe most hours played in the PTU. They get like a PTV or an STV with an LTI token, and they can upgrade that if they want, right? Like second place, most hours spent in. They get like a couple million alpha UEC for the next patch cycle when it goes live, right? And then like the top 4 or 5 guys, they get a substantial amount of money. Like I don't know, 5 million, 4 million, on down the line to like 1 million, and then everybody else that spent, I don't know, let's say more than, I'm just throwing a number out here. You got like more than 20 hours in the PTU. They get like either flair for their ship or digital hats, digital shirts that say something along the lines like "I survived PTU testing 3.20" or something stupid like that. And I guarantee you, people would jump in there and play the game, because 318 they were saying not enough people tested. Well, now you're opening up wave 1 and wave 2 to the people that have spent the most amount of money, and from what I've seen, spend the least amount of time in the game.
Yeah, and like, I mean, to compound that, like, make it outfit. People love collecting outfits in this game. It's like, hey, log so many hours in PTU, confirm a bug, bam, here's, the 318 bug hunter set. And you can just keep, recoloring the same set.
Hmm.
Like minimum work gets people way more invested because like how many people did the stuff just to collect the paints for the newbie event? And,
Oh, yeah.
it was cheesed. Sure, like a lot of people cheesed it, but you said a lot of people putting in that work.
Hmm.
They could make just like an achievement, even, and a group of people would do it just for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people do that just to get the forum titles.
Hmm. Yeah, people would. I mean, but instead right now you dropped $1,000 and it's like CIG says achievement unlocked. You have the ability to spend more money.
Hey, I spent that $1,000 when it was worth more too.
Yeah. I think a lot of you guys did, starting 10 years ago. Money was worth more then.
But yeah, that's my feels about it. Like I know it's probably a very anti CIG feel. Like I feel like they've handed the reins to marketing, and it's hard to get that leash back. Like, like we need the money. We've made a deal with marketing, and now it's really hard to get out of that.
It does feel like that. It really does. Uh, I mean, look, I get it. They have to make money. They have overhead that they have to pay, servers, labor costs, all of that stuff, running facilities. I get it. I understand it. It just seems very, I don't know if I have the proper terminology here. It just feels dirty right now. It just feels really, sorry, Captain, but it
Oh
just feels
no,
dirty right now. It just feels super dirty right now, and I just don't appreciate it. I feel, yeah, it feels like, I don't know.
it makes me
I don't.
wonder a little bit. Like their old model was what? I think their main profit came from ship sales, and so it makes me wonder. And we haven't seen or heard anything about any new ships. I mean, like I don't know. We have the whole sea, and there's that, right? But they're not giving us any gameplay to come along with that, and I don't feel like we're gonna get a surprise. Like here's this other cool gameplay mechanic and this ship to come along with it. Like that's not coming soon. So I kind of wonder, is this a response to our old strategy not currently working for us? And that's a little concerning because I think the player base wants to see those ships come out. There's a backlog, and a lot of people have been waiting for that. I've been waiting for that Kraken for a long time too. I don't know what I would even do with it in Stanton, but I still want it, right? And people would pay money for that stuff. It just makes me wonder, like, are they not able to produce the ships at the rate that they were to sustain the amount of growth and to sustain the amount of interest in the player base? What's going on where they now feel like this is the answer? I don't know. It seems weird.
Um, I don't have an answer for you. I just know that when I looked at the financials the last time, July the month of July is down 70% versus last July, and they're 20-30% below what they made last year at this time. So I really don't know what's going on. I'm not saying, sound the sirens, get into the shelters, Star Citizen is bombing. I
Dead
don't
game.
s-
Let's
yeah.
call it now. Star Citizen is dead.
Can't wait to make my clickbait video.
Right?
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on. But something, and then there's nothing. There's been Jack. You, you're the guy, right? What's going on with SitCon? What's going on? You got the inside loop there? What's
I
going on
mean,
there?
no one's told me anything, but the last two Citizen Cons have been streamed, and let's be honest, they didn't go over that well because when they're streamed, when there's no interaction, like you can't have a non-interactive convention. The whole point of a convention is to interact.
Yes.
So, they haven't done that well. So CitizenCon has got to knock it out of the park. And like what was the last one we had? We had 2019 was the Carrick going to Pyro. 2020 was a little bit of Pyro. They can't really dangle Pyro again. But
Been a long road to Pyro, hasn't it?
yeah, it's been a road, it's been a boat, it's been, digging a tunnel. There's been all these different ways to Pyro, and like we got to get there eventually. Like, Bob Hope only made so many Road to Whatever movies. Eventually we gotta get to Pyro. So like this Citizen Con has really got to knock it out of the park. They're probably holding back some of those ships for Citizen Con, which is probably why we're seeing a little bit of a desert right now. But like it's got to be a Hail Mary for the rest of the year. Like they can survive even if it's bad, but if they want it to make up, they've got to put everything into making it, get a return on their investment and selling whatever ship they're going to give us instead of working on the ones that we bought years ago.
I, Real quick, guys. I got my chats discussing how they should put JPEGs on layaway at CIG. Layaway ships. I need to put my ship on layaway.
Ooh, that's not a bad idea, but that sounds like such a legal and accounting headache.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
They're
don't
just
know.
goofing around.
A
But
Carrick payment plan, or sorry, a Kraken payment plan makes some amount of sense.
I mean, a
How much
Carrick
does that thing
payment
cost?
plan.
Even
doesn't
that
sound
too.
bad.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time I was like, yeah, I'd like to have a Carrick, and then I looked and I was like, no fucking way am I buying a Carrick.
I've bought cars for less than what the Carrick goes for now. Like they weren't
Same.
great cars,
Yep.
but
Mhm.
I still did
Me too.
it.
Me too. I bought a car for cheaper than a Carrick. How much is the Kraken, guys? Fill me in on this. I've
What
seen
was it,
it.
like
I know of
5K?
it.
Okay, so if you're using store credit, the cheapest you can get it, like when it debuted, concept was 1,400. That was all new cash. Using credit, 1,650. I think the price for it now is 1,650, but $1,650. Like that's not a small amount of money. Like I live in Arkansas. That's like maybe 2 months of rent on a crappy place. Like, a studio apartment in a crappy place. That's like maybe 1 month rent everywhere else. But still, that's a lot of money for a JPEG.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
I mean, it'd be one thing if if they were willing to say, like, yeah, we're going to have this ship in game, playable. It may not be finished, it may not be 100%, but we're going to have it there for you reliably by this time. Then maybe I could see people, doing some kind of rent to own or payment plan or something like that. But, like, at this point, it's, who knows if you're going to get the ship that you bought and they promised last year or the one that came out of concept 5 years ago. It's like a complete crapshoot, and they haven't stuck to. They're so inconsistent they told us just last year that they were going to stop putting ships in the game, excuse me, that didn't have any gameplay mechanics around them. And now what are they doing? They're giving us the whole sea, which is fucking great. I'm excited about the whole series, but what are people going to do? Like, I don't even think you could haul scrap from station to station with the whole sea. Am I mistaken that it can't go inside atmosphere? So from what I
No,
understand, there's no gameplay for it, which is a complete
Now, you can buy
turnaround.
scrap from stations. It is
Yeah.
the only thing it can run, but they actually showed off the gameplay for it. Apparently, you land at a moon, purchase cargo, and then go to the planetary station like Everest or Baijini, and it loads you there. The issue that I'm seeing is that you can sell 90% of that stuff in the same system. So, do I go to Everest, load up there, and then sell there?
So yeah, wait a minute. You buy from a moon in the, I don't know, Hurston system. So you would need to fly into atmosphere, right? With that whole sea?
Not even. It's supposed to load at the planetary station, like Everest, Baijini, Tressler,
Okay.
those.
yeah. So you it's
So you
basically like
okay.
yeah,
Then
you
where do
like
you
They
take
haven't
it?
shown exactly. They haven't shown where you sell it yet.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
showed it off in a video how you load, like how you
Sure.
buy. But the only place that I know that you can land that has ports is Orzen. Orzen has ports instead of like landing pads. But that's the only place that I know. So unless everything is going to Orzen, what do we do, CIG?
So okay, yeah, maybe I'm mistaken, and if you can take that scrap from the whatever Everest Harbor to Orison, then maybe there's gameplay there for that whole sea. Although, like, I don't think a lot of traders are going to be excited about hauling scrap around the fucking star
Woohoo.
system. But there's something there at least. But I would be very frustrated if they walked back on that promise that they very adamantly made when they were getting ready to put salvaging in the game, and they could like kind of toot their own horn a little bit and like, no, we're going to stop doing this. We're going to put salvaging in the game, and we're going to give you ships that can do it. And now we
Also,
get this. It's like,
radical idea. Star Citizen Store credit card.
oh god.
25% APR.
Captain's actually sitting there thinking about that.
yeah, I'm thinking like, yeah, they could ask us to sign in blood too, and just like make it an infernal contract, and
Like,
some people would go for it.
with the lack of discipline that most of us have, because I'm going to be honest, I don't have discipline. Like, I'm in concierge. I cannot tell you how many people would sign up for that and lose their house. Like, you'd have a Kraken. You wouldn't have anywhere to play it, though.
Yeah. So Marcus in my channel, he and maybe you guys have some insight on this. What we all know in the first hour, a Hull C, like when that comes out, a Hull C is going to be loading up, and an Eclipse owner is just going to launch a size 9 into it. What then?
Legitimate gameplay. According to CIG and the many interactions I've had with them, one of them was specifically asking about shooting ships on pads. And what they told me was that it was 100% fine because there were defenses set up in game to prevent me or discourage me or shoo me away. Like, that was in game. So doing that is 100% legal. As far as that goes, do I think it's fun?
I don't think
It's
it's
good
fun,
for
but
a
somebody's
laugh,
gonna do
maybe
it.
once or twice, but after that,
I'm sorry, they said they were defenses? Okay, that is confirmation that customer service doesn't play the game.
well, yeah. I mean, I strongly suspected as much based on many of their other responses. But I mean, at that point, they had gone from like complete dog shit to like they'll hit you if you're standing still. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, still, the defenses aren't really that scary.
So you guys got any last words that you'd like to give the parting guests of Chaos Squad and the Scarred Chat?
You don't have to pay your pirate, but I would really appreciate it if you engaged with us in some kind of way other than cheesing out. As far as message for CIG, I'd love to see you get your shit together and figure out your game mechanics, or at least figure out some clear-cut rules that people could follow. Save yourself a little bit of wiggle room, but like give us something. The rules that we've got currently are drawn from 5 different places and interpreted in 7 different ways, and we can't get a straight answer from even customer support. Yep, I think that's where I'm at.
I too would like to say pay your pirate, interact, and despite what CIG has done to me, I would say defend your cargo at all costs. I held zero remorse for what I've done. And Drake Lobster 2024, one day it will be a real ship.
Before you guys go, I'm getting a lot of love in chat for you guys. So, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for doing the sit down with me. I'm glad you guys did that. It's fun, man. It's fun. I enjoy doing these, and you guys are awesome. Big
Hey,
fans of
thanks
both
for-
of you guys, actually.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm glad to be here. I'll do it. I'll do it again if you ever want to.
For
Sounds
sure.
great. Yeah, thanks
sure.
thanks for hosting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chatting, guys. It's been great, and I'd love to do it again.
Yeah. Thanks for reaching out to me, Captain. It was awesome. It was really awesome.
I thought this was
appreciate
something that we could have a conversation about.
Oh, for sure. And guys, in my chat, Captain set all of this up. This was all him. So make sure I've already sent a bunch of links. You go visit him, you hit that sub button, you hit that bell button, and do the same thing for Jack. Go over there, hit that sub, hit that bell.
Yar.
Oh, thanks, guys.
All
And
right.
remember, keep on trucking.
All right. You guys have a good night, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yep. Take it easy, guys.